Today I'm going to do a little bit more of a tour, an in-depth tour of my nursery space up here. This is its third year as a nursery space, and I've got a video about how it was made, a link to, and just to recap, it was, when I bought the farm, it was just sort of perennial weeds in here. Had been a nursery foundation for a nursery, or sorry, a foundation for a greenhouse, and they were an annuals nursery, so they grew everything up on benches. So it was pretty bad soil. There had been some asparagus planted in after the greenhouse collapsed, I guess. Anyway, I initially re-poured the tops here and put sill plates on. I was going to rebuild something on it. So far, that has been tabled because it's become such a good nursery space. So I plowed it and then shaped the beds and have never tilled it since, although I do broad fork it between crops. And this is here on the north end, I've got a Rosayanka persimmon, which is an Asian American hybrid. Really excited. I thought it was going to bear fruit this year and it's not, but I'm still excited because it's growing super well with not any dieback at all after a pretty darn cold 6A winter. So, and then on the other side we've got another Siberian sea peach and another persimmon and medlars and Hall's Hardy almond, which is really a peach, and many other plants. Anyway, so the nursery, I initially dug out all the pathways, really like almost a foot down, and flipped them onto the bed. So the beds are really very deep topsoil, surrounded by a core of wood chips. All that soil that was moved out of the walkways was replaced with wood chips, and then wood chips are placed on top of the bed. So it's sort of a core. Each pathway is a core of wood chips that doesn't grow almost any weeds, but provides lots of moisture and tons of carbon and other everythings for for life, cellular life. Basically all the components, you know, we think of wood chips as carbon, but there's so much more in it. So anyway, it's a sponge for life and water. And so I think those being on either side of every bed really is key here. So on this side here, we've got a nice developing second-year-old patch of Sochan next to a meadow salsify, and there's some blackcurrant propagation down there, and these are sort of herbaceous perennials here, some columbine, wild quinine, angelica, a couple mint family plants over there. And then this is a propagation bed of smoky Saskatoon berry, which I'm really excited about. That is a lot of Saskatoon berries. Wild licorice, black currants, excuse the noise. We've got Cornus officinale germinating there, and then a little test block of various conifers. I'm excited to do more with conifers, mostly as like shade and timber trees, but also as nut trees. So we've got Korean pine, we've got Thuya plicata and Thuya occidentalis, and hard to see here, not doing so well, but these little guys are second-year-old. Can't really see almost any. Those are sugar pines, Pinus lambertiana. They had a really rough time coming through the winter. They survived the winter, but then after that, sort of dubious. Looks like a quarter might survive. Here we've got a nice big planting of elephant garlic for propagating seed. They're about to put out their scapes. I guess it's technically a scape, I'm not sure, because they're closer to leek than they are garlic. Got some more garlic over there. we'll go over there and explore that in a little more detail. This interplanting is a idea I got from my friend Sean at Edible Acres, and this was fall planted, really nice seed garlic with some beautiful Carpathian walnuts coming up in between. So that's been pretty exciting to see that I would say we've lost about half of them to squirrels, but it seems that the fall planting with garlic really did offer them some serious protection against squirrel damage. I'll show another bed a little bit later where I spring planted Carpathians with no garlic and lost 99% of them. Not sure what that's all about. Here's a spring sown bed of chestnuts, which don't look like it, but they had really good germination. They're still coming up a few places. There's some squirrel damage. Sorry, I'm not super mobile with the camera right now. I am carrying my baby Simone. There's a narrow leaf plantain in the walkway that I didn't want to take out because it just looks like the picture of health. Looks like a botanical illustration of narrow leaf plantain, but in real life. There's some self-sown cilantro. That's a nice walkway for him to leave there. So this is that spot where I spring sowed Carpathian walnut, and there are two. I probably planted 200 seeds here, so not great germination percentage, and all those were torn out by squirrels. This is a second year patch of American hazelnuts. Got second year pawpaws coming up, a little bit of second year American persimmon, and that's a block of second year chestnuts. That, when they came up, their germination rate looked more or less like this whole bed, so I'm thinking that those will be some very nice chestnuts. Probably get pretty good size. More American hazelnut, that's a really good production bed there. And then these are kind of extras of peaches that I had dug and didn't sell and decided to throw them back in. Not amazing. We'll see what happens. They're sort of alive, but that's about it. Not really growing very fast. A couple persimmons in there that are. And then same concept. Here's a replant this spring of air prune seedlings of variety chestnuts. So things like colossal and precoce, migul, and a bunch of other French names that I can't really pronounce. Bouche de Balzac, Bisalta. Anyway, I've replanted those, and it's funny, sometimes I never really fully understand. I do the same thing of root pruning, planting, and sometimes trees take off and sometimes they languish. And I'm still not really sure what makes the difference there. Apricot's doing a little better than the other replants. And then over on the side here, I decided to extend the nursery a little bit. This bed here is Camassia quamash, which has already come up and flowered and died back, and I've got to figure out an interplant with that because otherwise the soil or there really won't be anything growing there until next spring. So I don't really know I think they mostly go dormant for most of the summer. They probably adapted to spring extreme droughts. But so I just put some blocks and some black locust posts to hold up crates and have seedlings germinating in here as well. Persimmons, goji, hazel destroyed by squirrels, rugosa rose, Nanking cherries, more persimmons, river locust, sochan, and then then lots of Nanking cherries because I actually had a good crop of those last year and had excellent germination, so kept planting them up. And this is another Saskatoon Amelanchier alnifolia. Same thing. And down here are some third-year apricots that I should not have left in here, but didn't get to early enough, and so now this happened. And they're going to be enormous trees by the end of the year, and maybe one will stay here, who knows, or maybe I'll try to dig them all out and move them on to some folks who want some larger trees, because I'm about filled out with all the apricots that I would ever want to plant. In fact, I probably have planted more than I should. And then over here, the air prune boxes are doing well. These are Northern Hardy pecans, varietal seedlings of variety chestnuts, Yamhill hazelnuts, and the ever languishing Korean pines that are 2 years old and making me doubt my commitment to growing pines from seed. I have to figure that out. It's very difficult to do. It's very hard to get them growing well. You need some really specific mycorrhizal associates that I have not been able to get for them. And just wanted to show this plant. I'm actually gonna, I think I'll be able to actually sell some of these this year. This is Prunus tenella, which is the dwarf hardy Russian almond. And it actually makes little tiny almonds. They're really tiny. It's sort of ridiculous how tiny they are. They're like the size of a pea, but like a dry pea. But they taste like an almond, and so that's cool. And they're really beautiful flowers very, very early in the spring. Anyway, so the design being that there's some larger landscape plantings to the north of that nursery that will get pretty decent size eventually. Persimmons, mulberries, and they won't cast any shade, and they won't actually get their roots in either, which is kind of amazing. Normally, my nursery spaces where I plant big trees next to them, I know that the roots will get in eventually, and these may to a certain extent, but it's a pretty solid foundation wall there, so probably not much. And then on the east side, I planted some landscape apricots and peaches and Jerusalem artichoke, and there's hazelnuts hidden in this row, so hopefully they'll overtake the Jerusalem artichoke wall that has developed here. The idea with these is that this hillside is so steep that it's sort of, there's not much to do other than cut vegetation. But then I figured, well, why not just shade it out with some fast-growing fruit trees? It'll encourage me to manage it a little bit better, and so I just come and pretty much scythe in between every once in a while and keep them growing and feed all of the scythings to the base of the tree, and it seems to be working pretty well. So that's an overview of this nursery space, and there's still some stuff to be planted in here. I'm going to do some softwood cuttings that are going to be ready in a couple weeks. We'll have a home in there as well. So still planting as we're already starting to collect seed for next season.